Welcome back, Big Blue Nation, to another episode of the Cats Talk podcast. I'm your host, Cameron Johnston. He is your host, Jacob Boyers. Jacob, the Cats took care of little brother out in Rupp Arena on Saturday afternoon in what was a very high-paced game, score 93-85. Kentucky once again dominates in-state rival Louisville. What were some of your takeaways from the game on Saturday?
Coaches change, but some things don't change, and that's we still kick Louisville's ass, and we still own them. And this is going to be obviously remembered as the Lamont Butler game. There's defining moments in this rivalry and series, and this one's going to be remembered as Lamont Butler scoring 33, going 10 for 10 from the field, and 6 from 6 from behind the arc. How about all those records we were talking about? We didn't see anyone breaking. Lamont got very close. He was 3 points off of the most points in a game, and then did he tie the 3-point? Was it 6? Or was
Yeah,
it 7?
he tied the 3-point, and he was only a point away from tying that record as well. That was 34 points. So I mean, he came close to getting two of them just himself in this game, and this was from a guy who up until 30 minutes until tip-off, we weren't sure if he was going to be able to lace him up and play in this game. Man, where would he have been? Where would we have been without his 33 points on Saturday?
Well, yeah, you see it just in the few minutes he came out. It was just a completely different team. I thought Travis Perry played better. I mean, he still just, I don't know how much you can expect to get out of him, right? But he kind of gave you everything he had. He got beat a couple times on defense, but he didn't kill you like he did in that game prior. But obviously, this team is not the same without Lamont. I mean, everybody on Twitter, everybody with their rumors were all speculating that he wasn't going to play. So I'm glad he did, and now he's got a whole week to kind of rest that ankle and hopefully get right back to it. But yeah, came out and did not miss a beat.
Yeah, I mean, best game as a Kentucky Wildcat, no doubt about that. And to have it, when he was somewhat limited, didn't practice much this week. I mean, they hadn't even made the official designation until about 15 minutes prior to the game. I know we were sitting there watching the game together, still, 10, 20 minutes before tip-off. We weren't 100% sure whether he was playing. So to have him come in, score 33 points, 6 assists, 3 rebounds, only had 3 turnovers. And for a guy who, controls the ball as much as he did, played full 32 minutes when you weren't sure if he was going to play or not, is insane. And like you mentioned, perfect 10 of 10 from the floor, 6 of 6 from 3. Now, granted, almost shot 50% from the free throw line, went 7 of 12. We're going to have to work on that, but being a little nitpicky when you're talking about 10 for 10 and 6 for 6 from 3.
Yeah, I'll give you a pass when you're 100% from the floor on 10 shots. So I'll give him a little bit of pass. But yeah, I mean, just flat out dominated the game. I mean, he was the best player on the floor by far from, start to finish. We'll dive into some of the other guys here, but consistently throughout, it was Lamont Butler nonstop. Every time, it felt like Louisville kind of cut it to 4. It felt like Lamont was the guy that came down and knocked down a 3 or got to the lane. So really just he made Louisville play at his pace and, just took it over.
Yeah, and, trying to find, positives from this game. Finally shot above 50%. I mean, we've been looking for above 40% from 3 from this team for multiple weeks now. Go 11 of 21 from 3. Granted, a lot of that is bolstered by the 6 of 6 from Lamont. But how good is it to see this team, finally start to find their 3-point shot?
Yeah, I mean, they still didn't take a ton. I mean, only 11 made threes and only 21 attempted, and they still scored 93 points. I mean,
insane.
We've talked about it a lot. We talked about it after the Gonzaga game. We've talked about it in quite a few of these games. Like, this team can find ways to score high 80s, low 90s without even shooting the ball great from behind the arc. I mean, that's not something, I foresaw coming into this season. And to be able to do that, and when a game gets kind of dictated a certain way and teams are running you off the 3-point line, for this team to still find ways to score is huge.
Yeah, it's been so huge in this game. And it feels like, we're constantly talking about, man, they only shot 30% from 3 in this game, and yet they're still leading the nation in scoring. It's kind of just what you've seen from this team going forward. It's really, those consistent 2s that we're getting are usually right around the rim. And, I mean, we shot 70% from 2 in the first half and an even 50% from 2 in the second. We shot 58% from 2 in this game, and we only shot 64% from the line. So I mean, we're only talking about a 6 point percent difference between the two.
Yeah, and they're still passing up a lot of shots that we feel like they should take, whether it's, in the lane. I feel like Amari and BG and even Carr, when they get down there, there's a lot of pump faking sometimes and, kicking out. And then Kobe Brea, I thought, had a few where he was going to the rim and, either tried to lob it to somebody or pass it up. And then every 3-pointer, I feel like he's pump faking on. But
Mhm.
he had that one where I turned to you and it drove me crazy, but it was wide open out there, pump faked. By the time he pump faked, the defender had time to get out there. So yeah, I still feel like this team hasn't fully clicked offensively, which I mean sounds absurd for a team that's averaging almost 90 a game.
Yeah. It's so weird to say. This team hasn't reached their full potential on offense yet, and we're averaging 90 points a game. And we've played some good teams at this point. We've
Yep.
played Louisville, Gonzaga, Duke, and Clemson. This far throughout the season. We'll have another test on Saturday. Maybe not as much of a test we thought it was going to be. Michi Johnson won't play for Ohio State on Saturday. I mean, they
Yeah.
did just get beat by 40 to
Auburn
Auburn.
just
So,
ran them.
granted, Auburn is a great team. So, but yeah, talking about Kobe Brea, 4 of 9 in this game, 2 of 7 from three, 10 points. Didn't really add you much, outside of those. Only had 1 rebound, no assist, no blocks, anything like that. I mean, it's kind of what you expect for Kobe Brea. You're really not expecting him to be a rebound, assist, steal guy. But I think we do got to get that. Can't have him going 2 of 7. And like you said, we don't need you pump faking to get a more contested 3-point shot.
Yeah, I mean, he obviously got killed a couple times on defense. Like that's just what's going to happen with him. But I still like you got to have him on the floor. The offense is just so much more open. I mean, even when he's shooting 2 for 7, I mean, whatever defender's guarding him is not leaving him. Like that just frees up so much more, and that leads to that shooting 70% from the two in the first half because there's just so many driving lanes with the way this team theoretically can shoot it. So I mean, yeah, maybe if the 3-point percentage isn't there, maybe just the threat of all these guys is so much that we can continue just to get to the rim and get it inside.
Yeah, and it seems like, Pope's really starting to find his rotation, especially as of late. This is going to be the second full game without Kerr playing. So it's great to see, we're seeing Kobe start to get more of those minutes. Obviously, we know Lamont and Jackson are just going to be on the floor almost the entire game. Same thing with Ortega, even though he actually, for Ortega standards, didn't play as much in this game, only 26 minutes. One thing stood out to me, Amari Williams only played 16 minutes in this game. Actually checked out with 12 minutes left in the second half and didn't return in that game. What are you seeing from Amari that shows why he's not getting playing time right now?
Amari was very disappointing on Saturday, for me at least. It it's so weird because he's a guy that a lot of times plays with so much energy and so much effort, but then like there was times Saturday where Brea's getting beat on the perimeter and Amari's not even stepping up to try to defend. And I don't remember exactly what the play was, but it was something on defense, right there at the 12-minute mark when Pope took him out and was just like, I'm not going back to you. I mean, if he's not going to give you that high energy and ton of motor on defense, then there's no point to play him. I feel like he's too good for that, and he was probably the one person I was the most disappointed in. But when he's not playing that way, you might as well just play Carr at the 5 and give BG some minutes and roll from there.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Like we talked about, on the previous couple of podcasts, where has the defense been from Amari Williams?
Yeah.
I mean, this was what he was supposed to be coming in, supposed to be able to throw the ball around, be a nice passer, outlet guy, nice rebounder, and a great defensive player. I mean, we've seen the other parts of that game, but we really haven't seen him be, that great defender yet. And that's something that we need. We're going to need that from Amari going forward, especially when we play teams like Auburn and later when we get to SEC play. I think we need a lot more from Amari. And I don't think, right now it's working. We're playing teams like this. But to get to that next level, I think we all want to go to, we're going to need Amari to step up.
And what's frustrating is he does it in flashes. Like there's times where you see it. Like there were some moments in the Clemson game. There was even some moments in the Gonzaga game where he makes a really nice defensive play, and it's a lot of hustle. I mean, I don't want to act like he's lazy by any stretch, but like there's just times where it's like you almost just feel like he's just I don't know, like maybe not paying attention or what, but like there's times where it's just like go after the ball, jump. So I don't know. But I mean, you've seen flashes, and I think that's what makes it so much more frustrating.
Yeah, it feels like right now, I don't know if you agree with this, it feels like he's just playing so much below the rim right now. And for
Yeah.
a guy who's, 6'11", almost 7 foot, and especially, Andrew Carr's not a flyer on this team. Brandon Garrison has that athleticism, but you need Amari to be able to play above the rim. And it seems like lately he hasn't been able to do that.
Yeah, there's a lot of times where he gets the ball down low, and it's like, dude, just go up and dunk. You got a guy that's, a foot shorter on you that gets switched on you, and he'll still pump fake. And, same thing we were talking about earlier, but they'll pump fake around, and then he'll go for the lay in or that little turnaround hook shot. I mean, the guy probably is averaging as many hook shots as Kareem. I don't, I don't know anybody that's, I don't remember any Kentucky big shooting those as many as he does for the amount of minutes.
Yeah, and like we said, he had 16 minutes in this game. I mean, he actually had 6 points, 8 boards, and 4 assists in 16 minutes, which was a good stat line for the time. But like you said, it just didn't seem like that effort was there. And see, we're questioning the effort in the Louisville game of all games so far this
Yeah.
season. It's a little worrisome.
Yeah, like I don't think obviously he's not bad by any stretch or, I don't think he's a lazy player, but it's just like what we're expecting out of him and what we need out of him. You'd like to see a little more.
Yeah,
But the other guy you talked about briefly, Otega, didn't play as many minutes as he typically does. I thought he played pretty bad for majority of the game, but man, he took it over down the stretch. He made every big play. How about that three? Minute left in the game and he's pulling a three with 20 seconds left on the shot clock, but drills it, puts us back up 10. If he misses that, Louisville's right in that ball game. They go down and get a bucket. It's a 4 or 5 point game. So, I mean, the cojones to take that one and then bury it.
yeah. I mean, the great thing is, like, I really don't want. I mean, outside of Amari Williams, I don't want anybody hesitant to shoot that three
Yep.
ball. And it was good to see him because like we had talked about last week, he has been struggling to find that 3 point shot as of late. Started off really hot from three, had been struggling as of late. I mean, even in this game, we said, he didn't play great to start this game. Kind of took it over a little bit later. He was my MVP pick, and if it wasn't for Lamont scoring 33 on 10 and 10 from the field, he might have a good case here. But 17 points, only had one rebound, which for Otega, especially with how much of the four he plays in some of these rotations that we have, we're going to need more from him in that aspect. Also had 3 assists and 2 steals. So, I mean, a good game for Ortega all around. And he was 7 of 11 from the field. So he was very efficient. And, with how guys like Jackson are still shooting as of late, we need Ortega and Lamont. Obviously, we won't need Lamont to be 100%. I'll take it. But we're going to need guys like that to step up, especially with the way Jackson's shooting lately.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, Ortega just, to your point, the guy never gives up, right? He misses the free throw. We've seen it from so many of these guys on this team. I feel like every week we're talking about whether it's a mistake they make or free throws they miss. Ortega misses the free throw, comes down, gets a steal, run out, dunk, bam. And it's like, we saw it with Andrew Carr in the Gonzaga game, misses two big ones and comes up and slaps the ball away. Like these guys, a lot of it is the experience of them. They played a lot of college basketball, but doesn't feel like they ever get too low on themselves, and they're always there to make the next winning play that helps seals the deal.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest difference we've noticed with this team so far this year. There is none of those freshman moments where it's, oh man, I made this mistake. I'm gonna hang my head for the next
Yep.
3 4 minutes until I can get myself back in the game. It's just the next play, and that's probably the best thing we've seen from this team so far. Like you said, Andrew Carr misses 2 key free throws to put the game on ice, finds a way to slap the ball away. I mean, you're just seeing stuff like that from every one of these guys. Jackson Robinson didn't have a good first half in that Gonzaga game, plays extremely well in the second half. So it's good to see the resilience of these guys, and trust me, it's going to be needed when we get into SEC play.
Yeah, and then the other guy we've just briefly talked about, Jackson Robinson. Didn't have like a crazy shooting night by any means, but I mean the two threes he hit, I remember them both. They were both pretty big shots. That one was right in transition, running right down the floor after a rebound, and I think it was an outlet pass to Lamont. And I mean, he was probably 4 feet behind the 3 point line and just pulled it and nailed it. I mean, that's a huge sign. I love that he still plays with that confidence. And 2 for 5 from behind the arc in this one, so not awful.
Yeah, I mean, I'll take 2 for 5 from three from Jackson Robinson. Give me 40% from three
Yep.
from him, and I'll sign off on that for the rest of the season. best part about Jackson's game, I thought, was getting 8 rebounds.
Yep.
From your two guard, maybe the three, depending on what sets we're running, getting 8 rebounds for that. He kind of made up for Ortega not really having, a great rebounding game. But it seems like, we thought Jackson was going to be the scorer for this team, but it seems like he almost does everything else well. As of right now, he's not being too efficient, 4 of 11 from the field. We want to get that cleaned up. But like you said, if we can take 40% shooting from him from behind the arc and the good defense and, rebounding that he's been providing lately, I'll sign up for that.
Yeah, it's huge. Him coming in and, like you said, we all talked about, how he was the one NBA player potentially on this team. He's going to be an elite scorer. To not really have that happen, and he talked about his body language early in the year at Duke, and then now he's just like, all right, I'm not hitting shots. It's whatever. I'm going to keep looking for him, but I'm going to go out there, play really hard defense. I mean, he was one of the better defenders on Saturday. 8 rebounds. That's all the stuff that you would love to continue to see him do throughout the year, even if he's not scoring the way we kind of thought.
Yeah, and we talked about how the plus minus can vary based on how the game was played. But I mean, he did have the highest plus minus in this game, plus 13 when Jackson Robinson was on the floor. It's kind of crazy to look. You look at that; he was plus 13. Lamont Butler was just a flat 0. Obviously, obviously Lamont helped us win this game. That's the kind of the variance of the plus minus. But there is still something to be said about seeing Jackson plus 13 in the column.
Agreed. I mean, he just did it felt like everything right, maybe not as efficient as you would like, but he did all the other little stuff correct. I'm a little amazed here. We're almost 17 minutes into recording and we haven't talked about the fight yet.
Because I don't think it was much of a fight. I feel like anytime there's
the rivalry's back, baby.
Oh, the rivalry is definitely back. I mean, sometimes when it is a rivalry, you got to have the other team's got to win one occasionally. I mean, that's part of got to have some Louisville fans show up to these games and make it count, make it seem like it's not just a one-sided game. But how about just that still frame photo of where it looks like Pope's got him in a headlock? What about that?
It's awesome. He definitely little brothered him, and I do love Pope, and I kind of like Kelsey. I don't want to say it too loud, but like
a little bit.
I do like both of them coming out afterwards and just being like, yeah, it's no big deal. Like we're playing basketball, but the two little scuffles we've seen this year. The first guy kind of in there when someone's messing with them is Ortega, and I think he brings that toughness. You see it with the way he plays, but then also both times when there was some shoving or people getting in faces, he's one of the first ones in there.
Yeah, well, Ortega comes from a football family. Odafe, his older brother, plays for the Baltimore Ravens, so I'm sure he's used to be taking some hits, and he's not going to back down from anything like that. But, I mean, how about Brandon Garrison? He's already gotten a technical earlier this year.
Yep.
He's over in the middle of the skirmish in this game. I don't know why, but I think Brandon Garrison might be one of the last ones on this team that I'd probably pick a fight with, outside of maybe Amari Williams. So I'm not sure what Louisville was thinking on that one.
Yeah, and he wasn't scared either. He was over there by himself for a minute, right in front of the whole bench, and he was ready to go at all of them. And then, all the Louisville fans were whining, saying he was a dirty player, and I don't want to hear it. You guys grabbed him as he was like falling into the bench and pulled him into the bench. So, but yeah, it was nice to kind of see that level of, fight from both teams, kind of be back in this rivalry. To your point, at some point the Louisville fans got to get back into it. I feel like they're few and far between anymore. But yeah, and then it'd be nice. Well, it wouldn't be nice, but for it to be a rivalry, Louisville's got to start winning. But
yeah, I mean, we don't need them to start winning these games. We just need them to win other games. So at least they're competitive when they come into these games. Them being 6-5 isn't going to help us. We need them, coming into this game to be like 8-3, 8-2, something like that, to where there's, at least there's a top 25 ticker next to their name when we're watching this game.
Yeah.
But you know what that Brandon Garrison thing reminded me of? A little bit of the Amir Garrett versus the Pittsburgh Pirates. It was kind of a little bit of what I was getting as the, unfortunate Reds fan that I am.
It gave me flashbacks to Cal's first year when DeMarcus is throwing elbows at people's heads and Eric Bledsoe's out there, and one of the best Cal moments is when he looks to Louisville's bench and he said he's the wrong MFer to mess with. So I had some flashbacks to that, but obviously it wasn't the level of boogie banging someone's head against the floor.
Yeah, I mean, let's go ahead and talk about how Brandon Garrison played in this game. Got a little bit more run in this game with Amari getting pulled in the middle of the second half. Played 24 minutes in this game, 5 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists. Did have 3 turnovers though. Only shot the ball 2 times and went 3 of 4 from the line. Is this kind of what you're expecting from Brandon Garrison, or are you expecting a little bit more?
I thought he gave you kind of what we have come to expect from him. I don't think he's a guy that's going to go out there and be one of our main scorers. You'd maybe like to see him rebound a little more, but there weren't many games that I would have said, especially without foul trouble or injury, that he would play more minutes than Amari. And, we saw that, and then I thought his energy was better. And, it's kind of like what Pope, it seems like, is instilling in these guys, right? Like, it doesn't matter what your stats are. It doesn't matter, how you're scoring the ball, what you're doing. You got to be out there and playing with energy. And he wasn't seeing it from Amari. So I was happy BG got a few extra minutes in there.
Yeah, happy to see BG getting that extra run in Amari's place. Hopefully, they start making a battle for more of those minutes. You don't want to see it just to be handed to BG, kind of like it was in this game. But talking about effort from a big, Andrew Carr in this game, 10 points, 9 rebounds in 30 minutes from your big. I mean, I was critical of Andrew Carr early in the season. He wasn't rebounding well at all. He would go games where he'd have 2 rebounds, 3 rebounds, something like that. As of late, man, he's almost, I feel like the last 3 or 4 games he's been, if not a double-double, he's been right under it with the rebounds. What are you liking from Andrew Carr's game lately?
Yeah, obviously the rebounding, I've said all year, really want him to rebound well so you can play him at the 5 and feel comfortable about it. And to his credit, he's done it. And then also, like, he's just the guy that, I mean, outside, I know he didn't play well at Clemson, but it feels like every kind of big game he's there and he's playing well. Duke, Gonzaga, this one, didn't jump off the stat sheet with 10 points, but played almost 30 minutes and was very consistent and one of your better players out there, regardless of how much he was scoring.
Yeah, I mean, he even added 4 assists, which, Andrew hasn't really been that passing big like BG and Amari have been so far this season,
Yeah.
and added 2 blocks on that. So he actually showed you a little bit of rim protection, stuff that we were also looking for from Amari. So it kind of seems like he's almost taking over, Amari's role, being able to rebound as well as he has. Like you said, he's starting to play that 5 more and more each game.
Yeah, and it just gives you so much more of another weapon, right? Like when you're able to play him at the 5, you can play Brea, Ortega, and Jackson Robinson all at the same time. And like, yeah, that group may not be the best defensively, but like that's a scary, the other team's got to play defense too. And I don't know how you defend that, especially when you got Lamont running point and can blow right by you and then leave any one of those shooters. So that's a scary lineup for any defense to face.
Yeah, offensively, that lineup, if you can expect Andrew Carr to be able to rebound at that level and, be able to contest the rim where he's running the 5, you're talking about your 5 can shoot threes. Like we've been wanting him to shoot more threes, didn't get one up in this game. I mean, you're talking about 1 through 5 being able to shoot the 3. And we're talking about the worst shooter we thought just went 6 of 6 from the 3-point line. So give me what are you expecting from that lineup, especially, seeing Amari's minutes starting to dwindle?
Well, I think we saw kind of like we were talking. The lineup is going to shrink. I've been kind of predicting it all year as we ramp up to conference play. Like Pope's not going to be able to play 10 guys. It looks like Colin Chandler is kind of one of the odd man out. Almador only played 8 minutes. I think he'll kind of continue to be around that 6 to 8 minutes mark. There might be some games where you can get him a little more run, but I do think like the rotation's going to tighten up. And then the thing about that lineup with Carr at the 5 with the 4 guards, like that's going to be your lineup when you're trailing in games, right? And maybe that's why this team's so good at coming from behind, because that team's just so hard to defend. If that team's down 10 points, you put those 5 on the floor, they can make that up in 3 possessions.
Yeah, I mean, this team, like we said, especially if we can actually start shooting the ball well. Yeah, I mean, you take out Lamont 6 for 6 from 3, and we went 5 of 15 in this game, only 33%. So we still got to get all the other guys to step up. Obviously, if you take out a guy who was 6 for 6, it's going to hurt the average a little bit. But I'm looking forward to seeing what this team can do. And especially, with Ansley's time, I do want to see him getting more shots up. I don't think he should be playing, 8 minutes on the dot in this game and only getting one shot up. I think if he's coming in, he's got to be a guy who's just got to be ready to let it fly. Because especially like you said, if we're running Andrew Carr at the 5, more than likely Ansley's going to be running the 4, and he's going to have a mismatch out there. He's going to be able to get open threes. I'd like to see him shooting more when he's getting in.
Yeah, he felt pretty timid in this game. Just the one shot, obviously missed it. I, I don't know. He's not really a guy I'm putting too much stake in for like the whole year. I do like him. I think he's a solid piece, but I do think, especially in the SEC, like I think he's going to have a really hard time with that athleticism. So he's a guy that I think once we really kind of start playing these conference games, there might be even some games where we don't see him get in.
Yeah, I agree with you on that aspect. I'm more just talking about, hey, you know what?
Yeah,
I'm
let
not
it
the
fly.
most athletic guy. I can knock down some threes. All I'm saying is, he's down in the corner. He loves those corner threes. I'm just saying I'd like to see him take it with a little bit less hesitancy. And let's be real. This guy came from Fairleigh Dickinson. Obviously they had an upset in the tournament while he was there. But these games are still new to him. He's not used to playing inside in front of crowds like this. Some of those tournament games have less crowds than just your regular run-of-the-mill ACC game, and nobody shows up for ACC play. So I mean, he's still timid in these moments. Hopefully, that'll be something that as he continues to play in Rupp and continue to play in big venues, we start to figure it out. Because you're kind of seeing that same thing with Travis Perry, especially the way he's been shooting the ball. Not shooting the ball well. I don't. He only didn't even shoot in this game. Did have a rebound and a turnover in 6 minutes. You're seeing how timid he is as well. Hopefully, those two guys together can start to find some cohesion and be able to, because they're both good shooters. We know that. We've heard all the stories about Travis Perry all offseason, and he just seems like right now he just can't buy a bucket. And I think it's a confidence thing more than anything.
Yeah, I think it's that. I also think Saturday was more of almost he was just like, you know, let me know my role and play to that, right? My job is to come in, not turn the ball over, try not to get killed on defense, and then just run the flow of the offense. I think if a shot would have came to him within the flow of the offense, he probably would have taken it. When you're the backup point guard and you're getting thrown in because somebody got hurt, you're only going to play 6 minutes. I think your main goal in that situation is just pretty much don't mess up. And I thought he did fine with his role.
Yeah. And what I want to talk about, one of the biggest keys I thought to the victory in this game, just in general, the team had 23 assists versus Louisville's
Yeah.
8. That disparity is huge. You're talking about not having to work for your buckets as much as Louisville was. And let's talk about how many threes Louisville shot. 39 threes. That is insane. That's not even a number that Pope's trying to get.
Yeah, I mean they kind of had to. I mean, like Chucky Hepburn, that's a really good player, and then I thought Terrence Edwards obviously played really well too. I mean, those two were really their only two offensive options. I mean, how many threes did those two put up together? What Chucky had 11, and then
It went
Terrence
six to
Edwards.
nine between the two of them.
Yeah. So, like, I don't know. Yeah, they love to run and gun. Part of it too was they were behind, so they were probably trying to hit some threes to cut into it. But to their credit, like Louisville would not go away Saturday. Kentucky would get the lead to 10. Next thing you know, Louisville would hit a three, sometimes two, and it'd be right back down to four. And they fought hard. I mean, for as little as talent as I feel like is on that team, those two guards made a lot of plays to keep that game a lot closer.
Yeah, correction. They actually shot 9 of 18 from three.
Yeah,
They were
that's
six,
right. So
six of 9 from the free throw line. I was getting my next point
they,
I was getting my next point in there. They only shot 14 attempts from the free throw line. Kentucky shot 28. I mean, doubling the free throw attempts is going to help you in any game.
yep.
Granted, I want to shoot higher than 64%. And for a team full of shooters, can we get this free throw situation figured out? Because it's going to end
uh,
up costing us a game in conference play.
yeah, I don't know. It's so weird. I mean, for a team that shoots so well, and then I don't, and it feels like they just miss them in bunches. Like even in the Gonzaga game when they started whatever 14 of 14, it was like they missed their next like four or five. Like once somebody misses one, it's like all hell breaks loose. So I don't know what Pope does. Maybe you just have a couple practices where you're like, we're not even running plays, just get on the line. But I don't know. It's
Yeah, I mean,
the
if there was a time to do that, it is now. We have another They have 7 days until the Kentucky Ohio
Yep.
State game, and then 10 days until the Kentucky versus Brown game. It's only 2 games in 18 days. I mean,
That's crazy.
you've got plenty of time to do a lot of stuff. Obviously, Christmas breaks. A lot of these guys are going to go see their families. They've got plenty of time to see the families and get up some free throws. Because I tell you what, I don't know if Lamont's going to be able to shoot higher from 3-point percentage than he is from free throw all year long.
Yeah, and then can I just want to complain about the schedule makers right now. Like how do you have this Kentucky team that looks so good and has us so invested? We're only going to see them twice over the next, you know, however, what, 18 days?
Yeah.
Like I watch the Bengals more often than that. Like this is ridiculous.
And to be honest with you, I don't really want to watch the Bengals more than I have to. But I mean, even that. Let's talk about the schedule. Why would you schedule Kentucky basketball on New Year's Eve at 2 p.m.? People are going to be working. People don't get off New Year's Eve. They
Well,
just, as soon as they get done at work, obviously they go out with their friends, stuff like that. I'm going to have to be at work, in and out of the car, having this game on my phone, trying to sell some wine while I'm watching the Cats, take care of Brown.
well, at least it's Brown. I don't know if you remember. I think it was the Shea year when we played Louisville at like
Mhm.
2 o'clock on a Wednesday. I don't even think that was New Year's Eve. It was just like a random Wednesday. Like it was like during bowl season. So I mean, if you only do it one time a year, you do it against a team like Brown, I won't complain too much. I'll try to watch it at work, and whatever I miss, I guess I'll catch on replay. But yeah, they never play the Louisville game again at 2 o'clock on an afternoon. So I just want to get that out
Yeah.
there.
Let's just have no 2 o'clock Wednesday games. That seems like something
That's
that's
fair.
pretty fair in general. If it's the middle of the week, we shouldn't be playing at 2 p.m. I don't care
Right,
what day of
right.
the week it is.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and dive in a little bit more to this Kentucky versus Ohio State game on Saturday. Obviously, Ohio State just
Hang on,
lost.
hang on. I don't want to cut you off. Real quick, before we get to that, can we talk about maybe the biggest story around Kentucky basketball right now?
Let's hear it.
The the cop threatening to arrest the guy for standing and the atmosphere in Rupp Arena.
See, I'll be honest. I'm a little in the
Yeah,
middle
you're not a
of both sides here because you gotta remember. Let's say this guy's in row 8 or whatever. If he stands up at 8, that
Oh
means
my God.
nine's got to stand up, 10's got to stand up, and I
All
always
right,
find
so we
myself.
got Boomer Cam over here.
No, 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 listen to this. Listen to this. I always find myself in front of like the sweet older ladies who are like 80 years old, and I can't.
That's one thing.
Yeah, but I can't stand up, and he's standing in front of me. Now it's a whole thing. I'm not going to tell anybody to sit down. I'll find my way. I'll look this way. I'll look that way. I'll find my way around. I am pro standing, but I do think there's got to be a common courtesy that when you look behind you and you're like, this lady can't stand for 40 minutes of straight basketball. So, I am pro stand. I think there's other ways they can work around it. Maybe let's have like, one end zone is like a full standing. We can find something. We can figure
Uh,
something out.
I don't know. I'm gonna make a take that you know might make some of the older fans mad, but you know my grandpa always talked about it. He's like, yep, like you know, if it's gonna bother me that much, and like I'm to the age where I can't stand, like maybe it's just the age I stay home, and so like there's that part of it. Also, like we can't sit there and bitch about Rupp Arena, not having any atmosphere and juice, and then when your biggest rival and the biggest game on the schedule comes in, we're gonna yell at somebody for standing and threaten to take them to jail. Like what
Yeah,
are
that's
we
a little
doing
extra.
here? And then on top of that, like you can't really hear it on ESPN, but everybody talks about how awesome that environment was on Saturday. Terrence Edwards was like, I wish I had another year of eligibility to come back and play here. So I don't know. I think it's a mess.
How
I
much do you
mean,
think for Louisville fans it has to hurt hearing like one of your best players
yeah,
say, "I want to come back for a year just so I can play them and feel that environment"?
they
This is
don't.
Louisville basketball. This was supposed to be, a somewhat blue blood program, and you got your players saying, "Man, I just want to come back so I can play Kentucky again, feel that
There was
environment." How
there
about
was
Louisville fans make that environment? You got the Yum Center. It's still pretty new. It's in downtown. You got a lot of things you can do before and after the game. They have no excuses to not be there for their team.
It's unreal. I mean, Louisville legitimately at one point, and I still don't feel like they're far off, but like at one point that was legitimately a top seven job and a top seven program in all of college basketball. They weren't on Kentucky, Duke, Kansas, Carolina, UConn level, but they were right there at that next tier with, what UCLA is anymore, Michigan State, and then it was like Louisville. Like those were the 8. And then to see how far they've fallen from when Pitino left, they were ranked number 1 at one point with Chris Mack,
Hmm.
and then he has his whole FBI scandal. And I mean, 2 years of Kenny Payne, don't get me wrong, like I couldn't imagine watching my team win less or 10 games over the course of 2 years. But like, I mean, it wasn't that bad, but we survived Billy. Like, you guys can get back into this. You guys have you know, a pretty solid head coach. He put together a pretty solid roster in a short amount of time. You got guys that fight hard. Like, go out and support them. I mean, you're making the rivalry not what it should be.
Yeah, I mean, they literally had to do the same thing this offseason that we had to do. We went
Yep.
through the exact same thing, except, our head coach left us technically. He left us
Well,
technically,
and
and
to
we still
Kelsey's credit,
attacked.
like he's done a pretty good job. I mean, I don't think anybody expected these guys to, be a first for sure tournament team. Like, kind of what they got. He's getting the most out of them, and then you have one of your better players tear his ACL. Like, but yeah, I mean, Louisville, the fans are just acting like that program is just dead, and when you do that, you may never get it back. Just ask Indiana.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still here for it regardless. I hope Louisville goes 0-30 for
Yeah.
whatever the least amount of games they can play is. I want them to lose every one of them.
I don't know if you saw. I saw a clip on Twitter actually right before we kind of hopped on the Barstool college basketball pod. I forget what the name of it is, but with Mark Titus, and Titus was going on this rant about Kentucky Louisville can't be this great rivalry. He's like, all I hear is how it's a great rivalry, but Louisville gets their ass kicked every single time they play.
Yeah.
He's like going through year by year, and he's like loss, 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 30-point loss. So I mean, I don't want them to beat us, but yeah, I mean, at some point it'd be nice if they got their juice back.
Yeah, I mean, think about those great Cal and Patino years
So
when
much fun.
teams were both inside the top 10. You knew both were going to be good tournament teams. How fun, even those games that you didn't know if you were going to win, you knew it was
Oh,
going
you
to be
felt like you were gonna throw
passion.
up before.
You felt like you were a part of those games and you had to go be a part of the fight, all the action. Unfortunately, somehow, one of my brothers is a Louisville fan. Absolute disgrace to the family. I mean, let's just say that. But I mean, it felt like me and him were going to come to blows during some of these games. Now he doesn't even care to watch the games, and I think he's kind of like almost all the other Louisville fans.
Yeah, I mean, to not even want to watch the games, just it's absurd. I mean, I remember all of those years. I mean, so many great games over the years, so many great moments. Willie, stealing the ball from Harold and dunking, and then just turning back and staring at him. I'll never, until I'm 80 years old, I'll never forget where I was watching them beat Louisville in the tournament the year after they won the championship. And, I remember I was in high school and at a high school party, and we were all running down the streets of, a neighborhood in Fort Mitchell, screaming like, just so. I mean, again, I don't want them to beat us. Like the Cal era was perfect. What he went when Patino was there, like 10-2 against them. Like that's perfect. But they were really good. They were coming in, 2 top 10 teams every time you faced them, and you felt like you were going to throw up before the game, and it was just the best.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say, Kenny did this for Big Blue Nation. He
uh,
did it. He did it for
I
us.
think Kenny
Now
did
he's
it for a
collecting a nice paycheck.
check. And then now he's down there in Arkansas and he's collecting another check. I mean, that man after he went to the Knicks was just like, yeah, I'm just paper chasing. None of this matters.
Yeah, and speaking of paper chasing, there's going to be no Ohio State fans at this
Oh,
game in New York. They obviously, they've got the playoff game where they will most likely lose to Tennessee on Saturday night. Obviously, you and I never want to cheer for Tennessee. We don't like that ugly orange that they wear. But I don't know which one you dislike more, Tennessee or Ohio State. I personally dislike Ohio State football more than Tennessee
yeah.
football. It's very close, don't get me wrong, but I hope Tennessee takes care of business. But bringing that back to basketball, they play 2.5 hours before the football game. How many Ohio State fans do you realistically expect to see in New York?
Uh, Friends and family of the team. That's
I'm
about
not
it.
even sure all of them will be there either.
That's true. The friends might not be. I expect maybe moms and dads to be there. But yeah, I mean, real quick to your point, I can't cheer for Tennessee ever. I can't imagine listening to them talk about the fact that they won a playoff game and listening to that dumbass Rocky Top all for an extra week. So, yeah, Ohio State fans get on my nerves being up here in Cincinnati, but yeah, that's fine. They can go win that one, and then hopefully they get rolled in the next round.
Exactly. I mean, this Ohio State team, 6-4 coming into this game. They are actually playing as we speak. They're playing Valparaiso tonight. You would assume they would win that game, but Michi Johnson is taking a leave of absence from this team. So one of their better players. We've seen Michi play a lot in the SEC. We know what we're getting from him. Aaron Bradshaw has been reinstated. I'm
Yep.
not sure how much he will be a part of this team in this game. What are you expecting? MVP, score prediction. Give it all to me. What do you got?
Yeah, well, I expect the Cats to win, obviously. This Ohio State team won, to your point, I don't think they're very good, especially without Michi Johnson. And then, like, there's just a lot of weird stuff going on with this team, outside of basketball. Like, Michi Johnson, to your point, leave of absence. Aaron Bradshaw's off the team, and then, there's a lot of speculation, and then he's back on the team. So, like, just a lot of weird stuff going on with a team that isn't very good to begin with. So, I mean, if we're giving a score now, I'll go ahead and say the Cats score a little less than they did. I'll say 85-71.
All right. Well, I'm gonna go a little higher than that. I think after watching them play Auburn, how much they were giving up there, I'm gonna go 95-73 Cats. I think the Buckeyes do score around their average for the season. They're scoring right around 78 points a game so far. Granted, that's against teams like Green Bay and Campbell and Evansville and teams like that they've played so far. But I do expect Kentucky to come out and roll this game pretty easily.
Yeah, and then MVP. Ooh, part of me wants to take Andrew Carr, but that might be. I'll go surprise pick. Brandon Garrison has a big one. He comes in and maybe he doesn't lead the way in scoring, but comes in, grabs a lot of rebounds, has some big blocks.
I'm going to go ahead and I took him 2 games ago. I like to take people when they're down. When everybody's thinking,
Yeah.
they're down, all this. Amari Williams, he's obviously going to hear some of what we say. It's not just us saying this. Pope said stuff after the game in his press conference about how he didn't like his energy in the game. And obviously, he's not going to like being a fifth-year senior and getting sat down for the last 12 minutes of a big rivalry game.
Yeah.
I think he'll come out with a lot of energy on Saturday against Ohio State and take advantage of guys like Aaron Bradshaw. We saw, physicality really gets to guys like him. I expect Amari to have a big game. Lock it in, at the very least, a double-double with 4 assists minimum.
Now, real quick before we get out of here, we do got to address 2 elephants in the room. First one, obviously you guys see, no Tyler. The guy has extended his Thanksgiving break all the way to Christmas/New Year's. So I wouldn't expect to see him again until probably mid-February. And then second, we got to talk about our co-host here, Cam, and the element he was in on Saturday night trying to watch this game. Cam, did you have to go back and rewatch the game? Because I didn't see you too focused on Saturday night other than some yelling.
Yeah,
chance.
The dedicated podcast host that I am, I go back and rewatch every game just to get a second set of eyes on it each game. So I did nothing out of the ordinary. Just watched the game Saturday at Dickman's.
Yep.
Had some nice friends there, getting the cats chants going. But I tell you what, man, it was a great day. It always is when you beat Louisville. And I look forward to beating the bricks off of Ohio State as well.
Yeah, we had it rolling Saturday. So any of you guys in the northern Kentucky area, Dickman's, no free shout outs, but I'm gonna give a free shout out. They one of the best UK bars around, and I got some shots bought for me in honor of getting the Cats chance going. So but yeah, our buddy Cam, guys, he was having a good time on Saturday. So more of that to come throughout the year.
Hey, you know what? Maybe we should reach out to somebody at Dickman's. We're 1-0 watching the Cats game.
That's true.
Year. Maybe we could have that could be our post game right at Dickman's, going live right after the game.
I don't know if we want to go live after.
I might have to not partake in the drinking, but
after seeing you,
free ads for Dickman's.
I don't know if you understood if we won the game on Saturday.
Hey, you know what? I
No,
knew
I'm
the
just
Cats
kidding.
won.
He knew we won. He was yelling, celebrating, but I
I
don't
was
know.
loving it. I was loving it. Cincinnati, there's tons of things going on. They had the crosstown shootout, Kentucky Louisville game,
Yep.
SantaCon, lots going on that weekend in Cincinnati. It was great to see the Cats get a win because obviously Xavier fell to Cincinnati. I tell you what, I'm ready for this Ohio State game, partially because, like you said, our co-host, who I'm not sure who's going to be back first, Kirk Risa with the fractured foot or Tyler Britton. I'm not sure which one will be back first, but he is a closet Ohio State fan. Disgusting,
Yeah.
disgusting. I'd like nothing more than to go to New York, hang up 50 on them, and just win by 50, and I can just put it in the kid's face.
But again, not a single Ohio State fan's going to care about this game.
No,
If they win that football game a few hours later, I don't like you can't even talk trash. They're just going to be focused on that. So
yeah, I'll find a way to talk trash either way because we're expecting this Kentucky team to go far in the tournament with how they've played so far. They'll have a bunch of tests coming up. Obviously, like we said, 2 games in 17 days with Ohio State and Brown, but then we jump right into conference play. Make sure you guys stick around. We're going every podcast right after the games. Jacob, you got anything else to say before we sign off of here?
no. All right, real quick. With what you've seen from this team so far, where do you put them with everybody in college basketball?
I mean, I think at this point right now, you'd have to say, we keep saying, we haven't seen them shoot their best. We feel like they haven't put together a full offensive game in quite some time. I think you, at the minimum, have to expect this team to be an Elite Eight team right now. Of course, a lot of that depends on the draws you get and who you got to play, matchups, and all of that. But I think at the least, you got to look Elite Eight as of right now.
Yeah. So I only think there's probably a handful of teams that I think are better than us. The problem is I think every single one of those teams is in the SEC and we play them all. But like obviously, I think Auburn's probably a little better. I don't want to say it, but Tennessee's probably a little better. But like I don't see any reason why Kentucky at the end of the year can't be right there with them, or like this team can win a national championship, and I don't think that's something I foresaw before the year. But they've proven that they. I mean, why can this team not get hot for 6 games and go on a run? So
and I think the SEC
times.
tournament will be a giant clue as to how far we are along, especially in that time. Coming off of the conference play, let's go down to Nashville and let's win some games and let's stay for more than just one night.
That city is going to be ridiculous.
I'm down there.
You got Tennessee's really good. They're right there. Auburn fans travel well. They're right there. Cal's got Arkansas fans, I think, excited. We'll see. But then and then you got Texas, who's never been in the SEC, and I mean their fans are going to travel from Austin, so it's going to be crazy.
Yeah, it'll be a crazy SEC tournament. Make sure you follow us along for the journey that we have. Follow us on Instagram, TikTok. We're on Twitter as well. Like and subscribe wherever you get your podcast, YouTube, Amazon Music, Spotify. We're on it all. We're going global, like we keep saying now. With that being said, go Big Blue.
Go Big Blue.